exactly 1 year since the central bank chief took office, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, as central bank chief. Now, part of the reforms has been the introduction of the asset management company to help take off toxic assets from the books of many of the country's commercial banks. Wale Oluwo is still here with us, and we're still analyzing the AMC. Thanks for sticking around, Wale.
Thank you, Esther.
Now, many analysts have said that the AMC is not the ultimate cure, and that before we might even feel the impact, we might not even feel the impact up to 2011. Do you share this view?
No, I don't. It depends on how quickly we get started. You see, if we can get started in July, we'll start feeling the impact probably within 90 days of getting started. Yes, and I tell you this, I'd analyzed this before. People are looking at it from the main cash injection into the system. No, it's going to be a process. The first process is confidence, and that is what is lacking in the market today. Sorry to butt in.
Do you think the central bank has done enough in terms of communicating the process, the entire process? Because there seems to be doubts or misconceptions here and there on how or what the AMC is meant to do for these banks. Some see it only as a way by which the banks can boost their books and just taking off assets. But there's so many angles, there's so many issues to it. Do you think the central bank has done enough in putting the exact picture, how and exactly what the AMC will do for these banks?
Well, I think in fairness to the central bank, I think they have had a lot of interaction with stakeholders and a lot of interested parties in the market. I think they cannot go to the public yet until the AMC becomes a legal entity. But they've been doing their best trying to sensitize the public what the AMC. But the reshape and the operational modalities of the AMC cannot be put in the marketplace now, because the management that will drive that process has to be the one putting that module together. Otherwise, you cannot drive a process that you are not part of the putting together. Now, for me, I think let us not look at AMC within the context of rescuing banks alone. The distress we have cuts across. The stockbroking community is even worse hit than banks. You know why they are worse hit? Because they are not getting fresh funds like banks get fresh funds. Yes,
banks were rescued. They weren't rescued.
Yeah, they were rescued on one hand. Then on the other hand, people are still putting deposits in them, and they can do other businesses. The stockbroking community is just flat because people are not bringing new investments to them. People are shying away from the market. Now, the pension fund administrators, those are the big fund managers. They can still manage because every day people still make pension contribution and they still get their billions to do other things while the market is flat on the toxic asset side. So let us not look at it from the point of view that it will just rescue banks. No, it's going to, cut across the whole strata of the economy and put people in a position to, realize a lot of funds that has been locked up in investments over time and begin to make these funds to work again. Because you have a situation now where people are getting money and they're just putting them back into government coffers, which is to buy federal government bonds and all that. And to some extent state government bonds. You see, it's not too productive because when you have funds, it must translate to investment. A savings may be good for the individual, it's not good for the entire economy. That's what they call the paradox of thrift. Savings must translate to investment. And that is why, I keep getting concerned that, we are not reinflating the economy as we should because of fear of inflation. I think it was tested and interest rates crashed and people started complaining. But no matter the complaint that people make, it's supposed to be sustained over time. And then the holders of funds will know that there must be a new way of deploying capital in order to make money. It cannot be the traditional way anymore. So I think the fear of inflation should not bog down the CBN from taking very radical macroeconomic policy initiatives in order to make the economy to start. But there is not enough money in the economy, that I can tell you.
Yeah, but definitely the central bank would look at the atmosphere, the current climate, and take decisions that it feels are best for the market. Do you think the current climate right now is ready for such radical moves like you just mentioned?
I think it is.
We're still in a recovery, as it were. We're still in a recovery.
I think we're still in the recovery, but what we should be in should be accelerated recovery process. Our recovery is slow and gradual, but that's not the same thing for America. America was able to accelerate its own by a process of reflection and bailout and putting money in the eyes of people.
Yeah, but different dynamics are at play over in the American markets. We have our own peculiar market dynamics, as it were, over here.
You see, we're a member of the global economy, and we see what has happened has been a global phenomenon. So all the other economies that are reflating are making sure that, you know, aggregate demand level is not allowed to go down, aggregate investment is not allowed to go down, and other macro variables. They are cutting taxes, they are putting liquidity in the economy. There's a reason for that. Because as we speak today, you can see that, I don't know the data, because we don't have a lot of data like they have in the advanced economy, but I see a lot of slowdown going on in the economy. I see some numbers coming out in terms of growth. And as those numbers go down, they aggravate unemployment. So there is no way we will not reflate the economy as quickly as we can. And I think some measures have been taken in that direction, which is this 200 billion they want to give to SME. A lot of policy initiatives is being put together to also reflate the agricultural sector. But we must continue to push that in all sectors. But while we're doing that, we should not lose focus of the market. Because whatever policy initiatives we take, the markets will represent the platform through which you can reach out to very remote areas of the economy. And that's how
Wale, we need to take a quick thank you. We need to take a quick break. David Andorin is on to us from the floor, live from the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Good morning, David.
Thank you. Good morning. The market is fully open and is very positive.
What are the factors driving the market at this time, David? What are the numbers looking like?
Okay, although the line is breaking, but I'll give you a rundown on the market situation right now. Generally, the market is up by 0.35%, and all sectors of the market are positive, other than the insurance subsector, which is down by 0.48%. The banking sector is up by 0.23%. Another major driver of the market, the food and beverages sector, is up by 0.64%. The index for 30 highly capitalized companies is also up by 0.25%. So one can say that the market has opened positively today, Tuesday, the first working day for the month of June.
Now, David, are investors still trading based on earnings, recent earnings that we've seen on Broad Street? Or has that tapered down a bit?
I don't think earnings is playing a major role in the current situation in the market. Is probably more tied to the situation in the money market, wherein liquidity situation has improved tremendously by virtue of the over 700 billion naira that was released into the financial system last week. And so that a portion of that liquidity is now trickling into the capital market, and hence sustaining the positive development in the market. So, but however, we still hope that if the earnings come in probably within the month, and they are positive too, it could also have a positive effect on development in the market. Market stakeholders are also tenaciously watching the commencement of AMC, that is the asset management company.
Okay. All right, David. So you see us closing positive today at the end of today's trading, from the numbers you're seeing?
Yes, it's very rational to forecast that the market will close positively today, because the fundamentals in the financial markets are strong, and I believe that should propel the market strongly to the end of this week.
Okay, thank you so much, David. David Andorin, live to us from the Nigerian Stock Exchange. He's the CEO of Lambert Securities, also on Broad Street. We still have Wale Oluwo here with us. Now, it's been 1 year of bank reforms for the financial sector by the Central Bank Chief Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. How in terms of banks, the performance moving forward, and we've seen a stream of earnings so far. We've seen their full year, for most of them, the full year 2009 report, and also first quarter 2010, and we've seen some positive forecasts. But the rescued banks, except with the exception of FinBank, First Indian Bank, are yet to put out their earnings. Give us your thoughts on that.
Well, I think for the troubled banks that the CBN is managing, I think expectations on earnings should be moderated at this time. And the reason is this. They are being made to make unusually large provisions. And when you have large provisions, it impacts negatively on your earnings. But people should not be scared of those provisioning, except where you have cases where recovery is completely hopeless. Otherwise, some of them are just savings for later day, and investors should not, get too worried about them.
Especially with the AMC coming on stream also.
Especially with the AMC coming on, but the investors should be very finicky about knowing what constitutes those toxic assets that they see, and see the maturity cycle of a lot of the assets. The bank will make a determination as to how many of them can be recovered and those that are lost. So what investors will be looking at when they get their accounts from these companies or these banks is to know those that have been provided as being lost. If they constitute the most significant portion of that provision, then clearly there's a problem. But if they are doubtful, then it means that they can still be resolved and can still be recovered. And as they get recovered, it goes directly into income, and investors are in a position to see the earnings and probably see a lot of corporate actions in terms of dividend, in terms of bonuses and other benefits that will come to them.
Now, 2 years ago, before we saw the burst at the capital market, many of these banks, after they had done a series of listings on the exchange, they were trading as high as 43 naira, 23 naira. Many of them now are down to year lows, as low as 1 naira. Now, with this recapitalization, after the AMC comes upstream, would we see, can the market return, or these bank shares return back to what they were trading about 2 years ago?
No, it's not automatic, and I think that would be too optimistic to think immediately the AMC comes.
And probably not immediately, but
no, it will take a long time. Let me put it this way to you. As we speak, a lot of people have shares, but they are not willing to bring it into the market simply because the prices are not right. You can imagine people bought shares at 30 naira and you want them to come and sell at 2 naira. If they are not under tremendous bank pressure to service interest, they will not want to sell. So that's why I kept talking about the valuation process for the AMC's operations, because you might find a situation where you put the AMC structure in place and people are not willing to bring their shares forward because they think the valuations are not consistent with their expectation. That is going to be a major challenge. But if the AMC is operating in the market and playing the market like any other person, if he's interested in buying stocks, he's putting money in the market and buying and selling, that process will make the market to become more alive, more active. And mind you, a lot of foreign investors are also putting money in the market at this time. I think they constitute almost like 50% of what is happening. Then you can now see that the fund managers are also coming into the market gradually, but the retailers, the retail investors are still staying behind. You can't blame them. They were badly hurt the other time and they are not getting fresh money. A lot of them are owing banks. So for me, if the valuation process is right and it is market driven, chances are that there will be emphasis on making sure the prices, keeps going up and keeps reflecting the underlying values of those assets. And that's the only way you can have a situation where some of these prices can come back to what they were before. But it's not going to be something that will happen very quickly. It will take time, and investors must just learn to be patient about this process.
So, because right now the banking sector holds about 60-70% of the total cap of the market.
That's also part of the problem.
Might that change if it doesn't play out as if these stocks do not return back to what they were?
No, that's not what will change it. What is going to change it is going to be our ability to reform the market and make it more international. such that a lot of companies can come into the market. As more companies come into the market, take telecoms for instance, immediately 2 GSM companies come to the market, it will change the whole face of the market in terms of the dominant sector and the market caps.
Okay.
So it's continuing to make sure our market is internationalized, and even companies from outside Nigeria can come and list, just as we have companies in Nigeria listing on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. These are things that will change, you know, the sectoral allocation of dominant sectors in the market.
Now, one last question. Now, in terms of reforms, do you think for the Central Bank of Nigeria, would you say the Central Bank is still on the path, on the right path, in terms of reforms for especially for the financial sector?
Well, for me, I think the Central Bank should now move completely, you know, towards the issue of focusing on macroeconomic activities now.
Okay.
Macro policies, a lot of monetary policies, focusing on the economy now. You should not focus on banks again. I spent the last 1 year focusing on banks. I mean, it's done some significant work on the banking sector. That's more or less like financial surveillance. Let's now go back to the economy and see the relationship and interdependency between the markets and the various sectors, and how we can use the financial market to drive a lot of activities in the real sector.
Thank you so much.
That's what you should focus on now.
Okay, thank you so much, Wale. We really appreciate your contribution. Wale Oluwo, Managing Director, BGL Securities here in Lagos. It's a wrap on today's edition of Business Morning. Don't forget that the debate is still on. We're still having an NBC special. We're looking at 1 year of the Central Bank Governor in office, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. Join the debate. Put your thoughts, your questions, or your comments in our email address, businessmorning@channels